Hi, I'm Brian Lepire with Salem Film Fest, and I'm here today with director Amy Finkel. Uh, Her film, Forever, is a unique look at a very unique subject matter that we all can relate to. So, Amy, thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for bringing Forever here.
Thank you.
Well, I guess my first question, let's let everybody know the premise of your film and exactly what they're in store for when they see it.
Oh, well, I don't want to give anything away, but it is about our attachment to pets, our love of pets, the evolution of pets in a family structure and how that's changing, the sociological evolution of pets, and I guess to some extent the stigma surrounding pet grief over the loss of pets, and the many ways we can memorialize them now.
Indeed. Well, I guess my first question for you, well, after that, is how did you find the subject matter, and why did you want to capture it on film?
Well, we were a pet family when I was growing up. We hatched chicks once in Seattle, rats, dogs, no cats. Never was a cat person. My father was allergic to them, but
Not a cat person.
yeah, yeah. But so I had many birds, but I experienced a lot of pet death as a child as a result, and I became unbelievably attached to my pets when I was a kid. Not because I didn't have any friends, but because I just. So I think as I aged, I really wanted to explore that level of attachment, and I found the first subjects I found were those who had freeze dried their pets to offer them comfort, keeping the body of their actual pet
Yeah.
around for at least their eternity, and how that offered comfort to them struck me, and also, but I understood the level of attachment and the level of love. You can't really, blame anyone for loving their pet too much. And I've never been one to be particularly judgmental, so I was mostly just fascinated with it, and started on the journey that then opened up all kinds of different paths.
Yeah. In your film itself, you you explored the notion that pet death is sometimes the only real death that people encounter. And you go about and you speak with a lot of people who are passionate about their own animals and experience those deaths in different ways. How did you go about finding people to include in your film? And what was it like to interview these people with all their different nuances, we'll say?
Well, as I said, I'm not very judgmental, and I'm also, because I experienced the loss of pets when I was a kid and in adult life, and it just rocked me. I think I understood where they were coming from. They understood that I understood where they were coming from. They knew it was not a reality TV project. It's unfortunate that reality TV has made it so that for documentary filmmakers, it's a little tough to get people to open up about things that might otherwise be very tough to talk about. But there was a really nice article when I had started. I did a short, and I put that on Kickstarter to get my initial funding. And there's a really beautiful article in the New York Times, and it made me sound. It explained what I am talking about and how much I had a hard time losing my pets. And then subjects they weren't nervous. I sent that article, and it was just anyone would come and talk to me, which was really nice. So I'm very grateful to them for doing that. And people just came out of the woodwork. There, radio. I was wearing a T-shirt in that article from a radio station, and one of their listeners had put her pet's ashes in her tattoo. She thought she was the only one who had ever done it, but she contacted me and please interview me. A lot of people wanted to be interviewed about it.
So I imagine that you had a lot of people who want to be interviewed, and you ended up traveling all over the country to find these people and these unique ways to deal with pet death and just death and tragedy in general. I imagine that you had a lot of footage along the way. How long did you end up working on this project?
years and years. The original short took me about a year to do, and that was I had shot it on it was mini DV back then, so I had to reshoot that entire and then I took a couple years off and then went back and got this incredible executive producer, Eliza Flug, who signed on and helped with the project, and then I got to work on it for about a year exclusively, and so it was the traveling around. Most of what you see in the film was about a year and a half's worth of work.
Well, traveling around speaking with all these people, it's a touchy subject. It's definitely, and I'm always interested in how filmmakers approach the interview aspect, because by the time it's a final product, by the time it reaches the audience, it's very clean, it's very presentable. And people sometimes don't realize that you're not only the filmmaker, you're not only the cinematographer, you're not only the editor, but you're also doing the research and you're interviewing these people, you're speaking with these people to get the answers. So when you're in that situation, one-on-one with somebody who's dealing with this touchy subject, how do you handle that? And what have you learned through this process about interviewing?
Well, it's funny because the subjects in it, it's sort of a mixture of scholars. I wanted the film to be sort of a part Nova, part, character-based documentary. And so some of them are just purely scholars, and I had to do exhaustive research on their subject matter that many times I didn't know much about, the history of religious relics or traditions of ancestor worship or the biological the reason why, the physiological bond between pets and humans. But so I did a lot of research. And for me, I don't like traditional interviews. I just have a conversation. And so it was more of that kind of situation. And then with the subjects who had lost a pet, it was really just about being sensitive to their what they wanted to talk about, what they were uncomfortable talking about. A lot of times I would cry along with them, which, because I have had experience with this, and you can't help but be moved by some of what they're talking about. So as long as I was present in the moment, generally it really was a conversation, and I would cry or I would console them.
Well, yeah, and it comes across, and you get a lot of people on different sides of the situation, from pet owners who clone their deceased pets to taxidermists who are fulfilling the needs, fulfilling the requests of these people, and their takes on all this. So it definitely sounds like a lot of intense work, both on the research side as well as the filmmaking side. Throughout this whole process, you started it on Kickstarter. And that's another interesting aspect about documentary today, and just the genre and how to get funding. A lot of people, a lot of filmmakers at this festival this year have turned to crowdsourcing. What was your experience with that? Why did you choose to go that route? And in the future, do you think that's going to be another option for you?
Absolutely. I think at numerous festivals, Kickstarter often puts out statistics about how many of the films at certain film festivals were Kickstarter funded, and the number keeps growing. And I'm so grateful to them. They loved the project on Kickstarter and put the short in their Kickstarter Film Festival, so that and all the publicity from that. The New York Times article certainly would not have come were it not for Kickstarter. So I'm extraordinarily grateful to them, and it's nice to know that when you get a certain number of backers backing you, that you have interest in the subject. I think Eliza would not have signed on had she not known that this many people were excited about the subject matter. Otherwise, it's tough to gauge that from the beginning, from the early stages. But I think seed funding is one of the, they are wonderful people there, and they really help out. With projects that they like, they help with promotions, they help with, all of the early aspects of it.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a universal subject. It's definitely something that a lot of people can relate to and I think your film will bring some sort of comfort or give people new ideas about how to deal with this. Uh, so I guess my final question for you, after so many years dealing with this, bringing this to light and working on it, what do you hope audiences in Salem at the Salem Film Fest will take away from this film, as well as other audiences that might see it in the future?
Well, I often hear when people watch it, I think people are very struck by how unbiased it is, how I remain, hopefully, certainly that I'm sensitive to the people who are in it, who some might dismiss as being a little bit kooky or crazy. So I guess if I had any ulterior motive, which I was trying not to have, but it would be to destigmatize pet loss and to make people feel more comfortable that they're not alone in this. I mean, if we're spending the shocking amount of money we are on pets every year, and presumably 62% of the population has a pet. Presumably those people like their pets, fall in love with them, get very attached to them, biologically attached, not simply psychologically attached. Then chances are they're having a rough time letting them go, but they're doing it in private. So I'm hoping this at least destigmatizes it, opens up the dialogue, and makes it a bit more acceptable to talk about and deal with. Yeah. And especially for veterinary programs, too. A lot of vets don't consider, they're still doing, using the same methods they used 30 years ago, and that's changing, and they need to understand this sociological evolution of pets, so hoping it changes there, too.
Well, yes. Forever has so many layers to it and so much going on, and it's definitely worth every pet owner to see this film. So, Amy, thank you so much for bringing your film to us. Go see Forever, and come to Salem, see the world.